Welcome to Bon Vivant Chic, Life Well Lived, the podcast for anyone who wants to cut through today's noise and just listen to meaningful conversations on the human experience and the power of connectedness. I'm your host, Ernestine Morgan, an advocate for kindness with a passion for showcasing human interest stories that matter. Today, I'm happy to be sitting with Rebecca Quick. Rebecca and I met through my time at Morton Plant Mease Healthcare Foundation. Rebecca is Director of Clinical Operations at Alnylam Pharmaceuticals. Rebecca has been a longtime community volunteer with a passion for healthcare. So let's get started. Rebecca, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Happy to be here, Ernestine.
Can you share a little bit about where you grew up and what life was like?
I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia. It's a town called Audubon, New Jersey. It's a town where my father grew up, went to high school. On the map, it's very hard to pinpoint where it is, but the area brings back such great memories. It was about an hour away from the Jersey Shore, 15 minutes out of Philadelphia. So it was a great little blue-collar community in South Jersey.
Tell me a little bit about what life was like there.
It was what I would consider your traditional small town. Very hardworking people. You knew your neighbors knew you. Kids and I, we would play all day long, ride our bikes to each other's houses. Parents and neighbors would look out for you as we walked to school to and from each day. We came home from lunch, and so it was time.
When we were first talking about this podcast, you mentioned that you're really a small town girl. It's part of what you love about living here in the Bel Air, Tampa community. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say being a small town girl at heart, for me, I'm grounded in gratitude for what that type of community instilled in me. Same thing I think you had mentioned, really guided in kindness, in loving your neighbor, being there for each other, whether it was a small fair or traditions on 4th of July, and always loyal to the people and to the values that shaped me. So I think when I think of small town girl, that's how I would define myself. I'm a product of coming out of a town like Audubon.
That's terrific. You mentioned riding your bikes in the streets and all of that. Today, it's a little different, isn't it?
It's very different. And while we had the experience of being on our bikes and having the freedom, I think, which is things that I love about our childhood, I also love the beach and the water. Moving to Bel Air, now living on the beach, reminded me of the town that I grew up in. While my children didn't have the freedom of bike riding a day, being on the water has facilitated somewhat of that freedom. It came a little bit later for them as teenagers. Bel Air was where we landed because for me, it felt so much like home.
Speaking of Bel Air, how'd you end up here?
When I had done a lot of traveling in early part of my career, the term is CRA, Clinical Research Associate. And while I was based at the time in Philadelphia, my territory was national. I flew more than I drove and had almost the entire state of Florida as my area that I would go and visit these doctors. And so right after 9/11, actually, I spent less time flying and more time driving in Florida, just based on the nature of what happens after that time. And I would spend a lot of time in Tampa and cross the Courtney Campbell Bridge and had heard about the Indian Rocks Beach area. After I got married, my husband is a dentist, and he went to a continuing ed course down in Key Biscayne, Florida. And one of his instructors said, if you could live anywhere you want, where would it be? So he and I had just gotten engaged, and I thought I'm ready to settle down in Philadelphia. And he says to me this question, where would you live if you could be anywhere? And I said, I guess Southern California. He said, no, I really want it to be somewhere on the East Coast. And I said, then Tampa. I just felt something drew me to this area. Through some visiting and connecting with other dentists in the area, we landed in an apartment, sight unseen, on Indian Rocks Beach.
Perfect place to land. What was your very first job, and then how did it shape you?
You ask my parents or my family, I've had so many jobs. I was always working as soon as I could start working. My very first was helping my stepmom's best friend clean jewelry. But my job that really impacted me as a teenager was my years as a lifeguard. And spent every summer, we had a swim club that we were members and started. Memorial Day is the kickoff of summer in the Northeast, basically through Labor Day. My dream was to be a lifeguard, so I took that test and spent every day lifeguarding through my first summer as a freshman in college from ninth grade on. Shaped me. It was grueling. It was hot. But when we got off of our post, when you were done lifeguarding, you didn't go back and sit in the shade. You had to walk around the pool, make sure that the tables were neat, pick up trash, get up early and clean the pool. Who knew what you would find floating after a bad storm, cleaning sump pumps. So I think it really taught me the power of there's no job that's beneath me. And the manager that we had, my girlfriend and I still to this day talk about her being one of the best managers we had.
That's great. And you started off as a lifesaver. Have there been any pivotal moments or decisions that changed the course of your life?
This is where I'll be vulnerable in sharing my story. When I think about the pivotal points in my life, there are three. The first, and what I'm most proud of, is the day I became a mom. My daughter is heading off to college. My son will be a junior in high school. I had come from divorce. I had been 30 years old by the time I got married, and I wanted children. Having my child, a perfect human that was gifted to me, was one of the most pivotal points in my life. It taught me patience. She and my son taught me about unconditional love, that I could do more than I ever thought possible as a mom. You're not quite prepared. I've looked to other women that I respected and looked at how they parented and applied a lot of their disciplines. And I think it's paid off. I am really very blessed with my two kids and very proud of. That was hard for me at first, but then it's been my biggest achievement, I think. My second thing was a little bit over 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That was a year, it was 2017. If I look back from January until September, we were traveling. I traveled more for fun than just for work. I feel like our kids were thriving in their activities and at school. We were doing a big backyard renovation. We finally bought the house on the water that we wanted, and this was our big first renovation. It was the start of Labor Day weekend when I found the power of this community was remarkable. I was able to see a doctor very quickly, and what I thought was nothing turned into something. The irony was that the day I was diagnosed, the next day we were being evacuated for Hurricane Irma. I didn't know which storm to focus on at that time, but I think it was a good distraction that we had all of that happening, which was, I guess, kidding, but not kidding for the distraction. So being diagnosed with breast cancer was something I never even considered.
Does it run in your family?
My grandmother was diagnosed, but I didn't have any history. But it's not something that's like prevalent in our family. That's where you really understand vulnerability. I really had to learn to lean on other people and receive their help. It's very hard for me to ask for help. I think I was a very independent person from a very young age. Leaning on my family, friends, community, strangers was, an area that I learned. I really had to deal with the idea of what if this doesn't work out well? And what does that look like for myself and for my family? My strength, I think my resilience came through at small town, hardworking, keeps coming back as a theme in my life. My faith and my strength came from my faith. And that grew tremendously during that time. Regrettably and unfortunately, which is not something I talk about often, but after 20 years, my marriage did dissolve. And thank you. That's still pretty much of an open wound, but I think it's important to talk about.
And being in a small town like this too, with both of you having such relationships and connections.
Correct.
I'm sure it's difficult.
It's difficult, but with each of these areas, it's made me focus on what is good. And this is helping me to self-discover or reprioritize things that I thought would be but are not going to be. We can have a plan and our goals and what we want, and we think things will never change. Things do change. But I think when you're rooted in faith, in community, in a sense of purpose, those guiding lights continue to bring you back to what's important.
And these things make you stronger as you move forward.
Yes.
Absolutely. What lessons about family and relationships would you pass along to the younger generations?
When I self-reflect on what I share with my kids today, some of it's from Mel Robbins, like her let them theory. Let people be who they are. Try not to have so much expectation, because that's when you can be hurt, or you let that come into your relationship or relationships, or you feel let down, or you get upset with people. Really see people for who they are and try to meet their energy where they are. I know I put a lot of pressure on myself, whether it's to perform well, deliver what I say, or be that friend that shows up. All of that matters. But at the end, I think for them, it's following their bend. What do they want to pursue and what do they love? And really going after that and not being so concerned about what these external pressures are that tell them they have to go this pathway for college or they have to have this grade. I think those things matter, but at the end of the day.
You mentioned those 3 very pivotal times in your life. So what is different today than prior to those difficult turning points in your life? Where do you see yourself?
What's different is I'm so thankful to be healthy and alive. I see things completely differently. I have let go of things that would have caused me angst before. I think I'm more empathetic and can really prioritize things that are really important. What do you want and then what do you really want? It comes back to there's very few things in that circle of what we really want. And I think it's health and family and community or friends. And so everything else on the outside, I've learned to let go of things that were ideal or maybe I thought brought value or importance, but necessarily didn't. Even being in our community, it's recognizing the sense of community is very valid. So I think for my kids as they go and explore, but come home to the roots, never forget your roots. Maybe that's the lesson of never forgetting where you're from.
That small town.
Small town.
What are some life lessons that you've learned that you wish you had known earlier?
So many. One is the ability to ask for help and being comfortable being uncomfortable and not having to always have an appearance that everything is all together. And by learning that lesson in my experience, I think I can help others or continue to help myself to say it's okay to not be okay. It's okay when everything around you is falling apart to ask for help. And you don't have to always have that persona that you've got it all under control. People have said to me that I'm resilient. And I said one day, there's a day I don't ever want to have to wear that badge of honor, because maybe that means things are a little bit easier. Some of the authors that I followed, Lisa Turkhurst is someone that started a journey. Her journey and mine were very parallel. I found through her books, she does a podcast as well, and it's on faith and theology. And she brings together both, and that just had an impact on me. I continue my therapy and grow in my faith, and both have found their way to keep me moving forward.
It feels good to be authentic.
Feels really good, authentic. And that's probably one of the other things that, whether the question was, what was a life lesson I wish I knew now? I think they're intertwined. I think that I'm continuously learning and growing.
What do you think is the secret to a fulfilling and happy life?
I think my faith and my hope comes from the Lord. And so for me, I found times of joy during tremendous adversity. So whether I was really feeling sick, whether there was times of tremendous sadness in my divorce or trying to figure out how this is impacting my family and my kids, it's prioritizing again what's important. So I think you can still have joy, which isn't always happiness, but happiness comes from within. You're not one and done in life. Happiness comes from a nice conversation in the grocery. It comes from when someone leaves you a gift on your back door and they were a friend of a friend who heard that you were sick and they wanted to say that they had gone through that and they shared their story. Happiness comes from the joy of my children still thriving and smiling and going through their lives as if nothing around them matters yet. I think for me, happiness is a state of mind. Even though I felt there were times of sadness and depression or anxiety with these life events, I still found, on the other hand, that I could be tremendously happy for my friend who maybe just got a promotion, or so happy for my children who won a cheerleading competition. So I think it's something that comes on the inside.
We're all continuing to evolve, aren't
Yes.
we? Did you grow up in a strong faith-based family and you brought that through the course of your life, or is that something that you found as you were going through these pivotal moments?
I grew up in church and would say, like most college students, I didn't walk away from it, but I wasn't practicing my faith in college. In my mid-20s, I thought I should go back to church. Maybe I'll meet somebody. Maybe that's where my husband will be. But it became something that I desperately needed.
You've gone through some very difficult times. Your faith has helped you get through those times. And it's not just faith in community, but it's in a spiritual sense. So talk a little bit about that.
Faith for me is my identity. To tie my faith with my small town girl mindset is that when I was going through cancer treatment, my dear friend Molly had said to me, "You've got this, your Jersey and your Jesus." And I've carried that with me ever since. It's who I am. The Jersey in me is tough, resilient, and unafraid to speak truth. And the Jesus in me is full of grace, compassion, and hope. And together, that has shaped the way that I live and how I love and how I lead.
I love that. What would you say keeps you inspired and motivated every day, having gone through this difficult time and now sort of moving past it as best as you can? What is it that keeps you motivated and inspired? You have a great smile on your face. You look beautiful. What is
Thank
it?
you. I have two beautiful kids that need me. They are truly why I do what I do. I'm excited for my own personal growth. I don't know what the future holds for me, but this past year, after you and I met about this podcast, I started to do some self-reflection and mapping out my next 5-10 years. I'm inspired and motivated, one, to keep going for my family, for myself. I've worked very hard,
Right.
and I thought this isn't going to end. This isn't the end of my story. There's so much more to come. So that really is a motivator for me. I changed careers, moved from one company that I was at for 20 years and started a new job this year. I have a daughter going off to college, tons of change. I think what inspires me is just what is yet to come.
Bravo. Like that very much. I've been in the world of philanthropy 25 plus years. And as I've met so many people on my journey, I've discovered that philanthropy means different things to different people. It's not all the same. So share with me what philanthropy means to you.
It was a question that I did have to think about because while I do support the hospital and I'm on a committee, I thought, what does it really mean to me? And I thought it is the heartbeat of a thriving community. It's not just about giving, it's about investing in people. Going through my breast cancer journey, I decided to be treated in the community setting because through second opinion and consultation of other doctors and from other hospitals, this was the best place for me. And until I walked that path as a patient and experienced the care, the nurture of Morton Plant Hospital, I didn't really understand what philanthropy was. After that experience, I reached out to Ruthie DuPont and I said, I want to get involved. That is what brought me to Planters. She found a spot for me. But because I felt it's the community of our community, the way they showed up for someone like me from out of town, I can't quantify it. But for me, that's philanthropy. I lived it and now I want to walk it.
Beautiful. And I do know that you are also a strong advocate, mentor for others that have gone through this. I've heard stories shared about the impact that you've made on other lives. So thank you for doing that as well.
Thank you. Mentorship, and I think I described it as how I looked to other women when I was starting to raise my kids. Mentoring others and bringing them alongside you when things seem uncertain is something that I am passionate about. I do it whether it's authentically. I don't know I'm even having that conversation. I'm a trained mentor at my work and really do want to invest in women specifically in their journeys, whether it's professional, how to lead at a board meeting, or personally, how to navigate the uncertainty of the difficult diagnosis, or if your life seems to be unraveling. I feel it's my purpose now to share and help others.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. This has been terrific.
Thank you.
It really has.
Thank you. My choice word is it's good enough.
Yes.
It was good enough.
It was good enough. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Bon Vivant Chic, Life Well Lived. I hope you'll tune in for more meaningful stories on the human experience and share with family and friends. All the episodes are available on Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple, and on my website, bonvivantchic.com. Till next time, remember, every day is a gift. Live it. Kindness matters.